Radio 418.
What's up, beautiful people? This is John Montagna, and you're listening to Radio 418. Thank you so much for checking in on the podcast. Again, this is my show where I talk to my fellow musicians about the life in music. And this is a conversation that I was really looking forward to having, really looking forward to sharing it with you. Margot Bingham is my guest. I've known Margot for many years from the gig circuit here in New York, doing the private event type things. And you would most likely know Margot from her role on Boardwalk Empire as Daughter Maitland. And we talked about that. We talked about creating an iconic role on an iconic television show and straddling the line between acting and music. She's got many film and TV credits to her name. She was in the cast of Rent for a little while. She toured as a vocalist with Jason Mraz.
This fall, she'll be on Netflix working with Spike Lee on his series adaptation of She's Gotta Have It.
She's got a YouTube series called Feel Good Studios, which I participated in a little while ago, doing a great version of Change the World, the Eric Clapton song. She's a podcast host as well. She hosts The Come Up with Margot and Cassie. We talked about that. By the way, their podcast is on Bumpers, and if you haven't checked out Bumpers, it's a very cool little app. It's social media with audio, essentially. Like Twitter or Instagram, where people follow you, you follow people. And it's audio content. So there's quite a few podcasts on here. So they're on Bumpers. And I'm on Bumpers as well at John Montagna. You download the app, you create an account. Pretty straight ahead. It's a lot of fun. But in any case, we talked about that and the new media landscape and creating an identity for yourself as an artist, maintaining it, all that kind of stuff. Great talk is going to come up in just a minute. Quick little bit of Bees and Easts up front. Saturday, September 2nd, the Godfrey Townsend Band will be appearing at Daryl's house in Pauling, New York. That's upstate. Of course, the Godfrey Townsend Band. Myself, Godfrey Townsend on guitar, Steve Murphy on drums, Manny Focarazzo on keys. These are my brothers from the road, going back to the Alan Parsons Live Project days. Happy Together tours, the hippie fests. I love those guys, and I love playing music with them. I'm looking forward to doing our tribute to the music of Eric Clapton, the Clapton is Godfrey show. So one more time for the world. Clapton is Godfrey, Godfrey Townsend Band, Daryl's house in Pauling, New York, Saturday, September 2nd, 8 p.m. hit darylshouseclub.com for tickets to that. I'm a little fried vocally and mentally, so I apologize. I am in the home stretch of a 4-gig weekend. Wedding Friday night, wedding last night, Saturday, and the Beatle brunch on Saturday morning at BB King's, subbing out with Strawberry Fields there. I get to become him for 2 hours on stage, play the Hofner violin bass, and sing pretty much at the top of my range the whole time, including Golden Slumbers with all that growling I got to do. And then last night we finished out the gig with Bohemian Rhapsody, which is my vocal showcase. So very thankful to be employed, very thankful that I'm capable of maintaining a schedule like this and regulating my energy and all that stuff. But right now the voice is kind of saying to me, really, John? This is what you want to do with us? Why am I going on like this? Let's just get right into this conversation. This is Margot Bingham.
Radio 418.
Blue sky's been shining down on me. Day sunny and free. Got a feeling that you'll keep me safe from harm. 'Cause me and you, we got something. And in this world you can get lost, but with you as my guide, I'm safe. Here in your arms, I'm safe from trouble. And I feel that it's real with you. You make me complete.
That's a cool device.
It really let me down a couple of days ago.
Really?
It wasn't recording. You know Mike Viseglia, the bass player?
Yeah.
35 minutes, I'm on his couch talking to him. He's telling me all about being in the studio with Joe Jackson and doing this and doing that. Great conversation. And I go to put money in the meter, in the parking meter. I come back and I see one music clip for 27 seconds. And I'm like, fuck. We haven't been recording that whole time. Oh. There was enough stuff we hadn't covered yet that we could pick up and talk about. But, And
we always end up recording like two things.
Okay, this is on the Come Up podcast.
This is on the yeah, because we do it on bumpers.
Okay.
So I record it on bumpers, and then I also record it on like my music notes.
Okay.
Just to have it. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I have it on bumpers, I then download it and email it to myself.
To save a copy. Sure.
No matter what.
Right.
Because if my phone breaks down, there goes the podcast.
That's it.
That's it.
Right.
So is it recording?
It is recording, yeah. Oh, yeah, no. It's okay. Recording now. And as you can see, my cable is very short.
Right.
And the machine is right in front of me.
Perfect.
So, all right. You from Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh, PA.
Pittsburgh, PA?
Yeah.
And what kind of place was that to grow up in the time you were growing up there?
Well, Pittsburgh is surprisingly extremely creative. There's a lot of poets and musicians and dancers and artists that come out of Pittsburgh.
Did you live in an area where you could get a taste of that flavor? Is that what inspired you?
No, I was not. I lived in the suburbs. I was born and raised in the suburbs.
Okay.
Total white America, middle class. Not much arts around there. It was more like team spirit and local high schools.
Your dad was, maybe still is, a football player?
He was. Yeah, okay. He was. Yeah, he retired a year before I was born.
Okay.
Maybe 2 years before I was born. But
was that a lot of his identity from that point on? Was he former Pittsburgh Steelers guy? Or?
For sure. And I was the former Pittsburgh Steelers daughter.
Okay. So you were kind of in a prominent family?
Well, not so much a prominent family, but more in the shadows of my father.
Oh, okay.
And then there was definitely a turning point that changed. And it was weird for my dad because he was always the one in the papers and it was always Margot Bingham's daughter of former NFL Steeler.
Okay.
But then it started changing to Craig Bingham, father of actress Margot Bingham.
Interesting.
So that was kind of weird. But so I grew up in the suburbs and then I moved to the city with my grandmother to be able to go to this school that was a performing arts high school. Mm-hmm. So being in the city gave me everything that I needed. I was never going to succeed in the suburbs.
Yeah.
I was heading toward a drill team kind of lifestyle.
Right.
For everybody that doesn't know what that is, that's kind of the dancing formation of cheerleaders.
Right.
And I was a dancer, so it worked for that, and I was definitely moving toward more of a hazing future for myself. More so being the one that got hazed. But
now, how old were you when you clocked that was not what you were called to do?
I was in middle school.
Okay.
I was in middle school, and I had the opportunity to audition for this school that I knew about because I was actually in a musical of theirs when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
So I was
in... Was that your first performance experience?
That was probably my first performance in a theater experience. Was at 8.
Okay.
I had a great time, but I always loved the students and I loved the teachers and the directors. And I said to my mom that I always wanted to go to that school.
Okay.
So when it came time to audition, it was a huge audition. And it was at the time, now they just accept people. They still hold auditions, but it's a lot more open.
That's like music and art here where I went.
For sure. Same
kind of vibe.
Yeah.
When I found out 2 weeks into 8th grade, they said, we're abolishing the 9th grade. You're all going to high school next year. I was like, woohoo! And I auditioned and I got in, and wow, that was that, man.
Wow.
I'm sorry to hijack your story. But
no,
I can
that's
relate.
that was pretty much mine too.
Yeah,
like I literally was definitely going toward hazing, and like, and it wasn't like, it was very serious at my old high school, and it was like these popular girls would go
Suburban
go
sports.
at, oh my God,
All
they
those
were
John Hughes
vicious,
films. Right.
vicious.
Yeah.
And so basically in my old middle school going into high school, it was always a senior that went into the drill team captain. And, you know, like the captain, the cheerleaders were not popular in my old school, but the drill team were the popular girls. They were like the hot popular girls.
Okay.
And it's always a senior that's the captain of the drill team. But I was in 8th grade going on freshman, and I danced with the choreographer for the drill team.
Okay.
So she asked me to be the captain for freshman year.
Okay.
So all of those junior girls that were veering up to be senior and going into the option or possibility to be captain were getting hijacked by this freshman, and they were already starting to like meet me in the hallways and threaten me. So I was like, if I don't get into this high school, I'm so messed up.
Right.
Like I will definitely get harassed. I also can't do what I love to do, which is dance.
Yeah.
I won't be able to be a part of this drill team because like the choreographer is not taking no. I kept praying. I was like, please don't make me captain, please. And she's like, Margot, you're the best dancer we have. Like, what are you talking about?
You're like
we
13
have to.
at this
And I'm
point.
like, God, like I can't. Like I'm gonna get my ass kicked. Like I'm never gonna be able to live through this. So I auditioned for Kappa, and then I got in, and I was like, peace out.
Yeah.
I'm so out of here.
Nice.
I couldn't wait. And then I ended up getting hazed in Kappa anyway.
What did that consist of? Not to make you relive.
It was another girl that just had it out for me. I guess I was talking to her ex-boyfriend, and we were friends, and she met me in the bathroom a couple times. She met me by my locker with her gang, and luckily I had a senior looking out for me.
Nice.
And she kind of squashed that, and we had to go, like, there were a couple moments that, you know, cops got involved, and my dad had to drive in, and I had to miss homeroom so that she wouldn't meet me in the hallway, and it was really bad for a while. Yeah. That was my freshman year. Oh, it was bad.
I got punched in the nose once outside music and art. We were
by somebody in the school?
No. This was LaGuardia.
Right.
It was there was Lincoln Center on one side, the projects on the other, and this is like 1980s Ed Koch, Bernard Goetz, New York.
Right.
Pre Rudy Giuliani. So we were like right between like the cultural heart of the city and like the projects. And so all these like teenage like dancers and singers coming out, hanging around outside the school. And listen, man, if I were a bully, I'd be salivating at all these kids
for
too.
Sure.
Right?
It's like open territory.
Yeah. Freshman year, just some kid, yo, what you looking at? What? Pow. Bloody nose. So, but you know what? That's the worst that happened to me.
I'm happy that that's the worst that happened to you. But it's definitely, I mean, like when you're in the creative and performing arts, you're kind of a walking target for people who, especially bullies, but there's definitely kids going and growing up that don't know who they are yet. And whether they like to claim it or not, they're a little bit intimidated by kids that are able to express themselves through creatives.
There's that. I think it's also, I mean,
it's also upbringing, and it's also just being a dick.
There's upbringing and being a dick, and there's also, creative types were easy targets because we're not trained to be tough.
Like our school mascot for our high school was the unicorn. Like that is literally the perfect description of what like the arts schools are like.
Right. Now,
unicorns.
I don't want to harp on this too much, but if I'm not mistaken, you are the product of a mixed parent relationship, right? I believe your mother, and thus you are a member of my wife's tribe.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, my mother is German Russian.
Okay.
And my father is Jamaican, a bit West Indian. But he was born and raised in Jamaica and came to the U.S. when he was 16.
Okay.
And they met in college. at Syracuse University.
Okay.
Shout out SU.
All right.
And my mom is from a small town in Connecticut, and she decided to leave this small, tiny Jewish college in Connecticut and go to SU.
Okay.
And then they met like the first week that she went to school there. And yeah, they fell in love, and that was the end of it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Is Judaism a big part of your life?
I think it was a big part of my growing up. The interesting thing is my mom is not that religious, but she lives by the traditions of Judaism.
Okay.
My father is extremely religious, but he is Methodist or Baptist. I always get confused, and I apologize. I know that that's a huge difference. But at the time that my parents were married, there was already so much against their marriage, just being racially divided. That they decided when they had kids that religion would not be one of the things that got in the way of their marriage.
Okay.
No matter how religious my father is and was, in Judaism, traditionally, the kids are Jewish because of the mother.
Right.
So that, regardless of however religious my mom was, that was the tradition that she was going with.
Right.
And my dad followed suit because honestly, being together was more worth it than being split apart because of religion. So we grew up Jewish, my brother and I, and my dad would he would go to synagogue with us on high holidays.
Yeah.
And it just became a thing that he learned some of the Jewish songs and some of the things, and he would like say that before bedtime. So it was like we kind of grew up in a We Are the World type of family.
Got it.
And he would say some Bible passages on the way to school, which I always tried to ignore because I just like didn't know what he was trying to do. I was like, he's trying to push his religious agenda, and I was like, meanwhile, that's how he communicated. So But yeah, it was a very open marriage because they just like did not have much on their side.
Okay. No, because I know we were on a gig together once, and you were like either singing one of the songs or quoting one of the prayers. I heard you like dropping some Hebrew very authentically. I was like, oh.
You're
and
like, wow, she really prepared for this gig.
Right. And then I saw you on Instagram dressed up like a dreidel, which I thought was adorable. So I was just curious about how much
Still
of
the best Halloween costume ever.
Yeah. Just how much of a factor that was. Although I did win the costume contest at my daughter's temple Purim carnival.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just
amazing.
I have my Sgt. Pepper coat from one of my Beatles gigs. And
that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
So,
yeah, I mean, religion is it's definitely important to me, and Judaism I love because of the amount of times that it requires our family to get together a year because of how many holidays there are.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of Judaism that I don't agree with, but there's also a lot of Christianity that I don't agree with, or pieces of being Catholic. And there's plenty of things that I agree with in the Buddhist or Hinduism traditions. So I find myself more being spiritual than religious.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to be in a family that was kind of all things. So
that left you open to be that way.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I had a Jewish stepfather. So
okay.
I learned a lot of the traditions and the stuff. And then, when I met Jill and we got married in a Jewish ceremony.
Okay.
And I really, actually, it was pretty transformative.
Did you find that it's a stronger push of rituals or religion coming from a woman's side than your stepfather?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because
that's just kind of the tradition of it.
My stepfather is culturally Jewish. He appreciates the traditions, but isn't really like hard about like, okay, it's Friday, we got to, light the candles. Mm-hmm. Jill was much more and is much more devout. And especially after Francesca was born, it was really important to her that our daughter is being raised Jewish.
Yeah.
And she's going to Sunday school and all that stuff.
Right.
But to your point before about rituals, we got married in a Jewish ceremony, and everything had like a symbolic meaning to it. The wine glass and the candles and and it was definitely like I stepped under that chuppah one person and stepped out another. I mean, it really felt like a change happened. And I'm a fan of rituals and
I am
stuff
too.
like that.
No matter what they are.
Symbolism.
Like, I think that, if it stands for unity and love, then count me in.
Yeah, totally. So your first inclination that you were going to be a performer, an entertainer, was when? And who was the inspiration?
Well, I remember seeing Toni Braxton. She was probably one of my first concerts that I went to. And I was obsessed with Toni Braxton.
Wow.
At the time when I was a kid, I had I had two polyps on my vocal cords, which put my natural voice to be really, really low.
Okay.
So at 10, I was singing Toni Braxton songs.
Okay.
And I was always singing in the bass or tenor parts of choruses. Uh-huh. Not usual for a teen.
Right.
Okay. Or even be preteen. So I was obsessed with Toni Braxton because she was the one woman that had a low voice like I did, and I can sing her stuff.
Okay.
Even though it was so beyond my years, my parents still let me sing it because it just it was the one gal that I can connect with.
Okay.
And I ended up having vocal surgery, and I was mute for a couple months. And
oh my God.
I had to learn how to sing and speak again, and that was a whole
wow
thing. So I don't know if there was really a moment for me that I knew that it was going to happen. I think that there was definitely a moment for me that took me back. And it was it was about a year after my surgery, and I went to a vocal recital of mine, and I got up on stage to sing in my own little corner from Cinderella. Mm-hmm. And I was dressed so pretty and in this beautiful dress that my mom got me.
And you're how old at this point?
I think I was 14. I was 14.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I got up on stage and I opened my mouth to sing and nothing came out. And I was mortified and I ran off the stage and locked myself in the bathroom until everybody had left the recital.
Oh my God.
I was bawling, crying. I would not leave and literally shut the place down.
Oh my God.
My mom was like, you need to get out of here. Come on. And then for a couple years after that, I had horrible stage fright, and I still have really bad anxiety on stage.
Really?
Yeah. I went to hypnotists, and I went to, I struggle with horrible stage fright.
I'm shocked.
Horrible stage fright.
Because you got up at Joe's Pub and you crushed it,
oh,
man.
God. I have horrible stage fright. I mean, I'm now at the legal age that I can have liquid courage, luckily I can depend on whiskey and other things to just make me feel okay.
Right.
So I don't know if there was a moment that necessarily turned in my life that I knew was going to be a moment for stardom or for a successful career in whatever I was sent out to do.
Right.
But that was definitely the moment that I questioned even doing this for sure. Yeah.
All right.
That Cinderella moment.
That'll go away with time.
Sure.
Quincy Jones says that, and he might have taken from somebody, that the statute of limitations on most childhood trauma has expired.
For sure.
So, as I've, and it's easy for me to say, you shouldn't even take my advice. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just looking at somebody that every time I see you on a gig, you get up and you crush it. And I'm I'm shocked that this is even an issue for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just had a gig the other day at Rockwood and I was I could not stop shaking. I don't know.
Okay.
I was singing 3 songs.
Have you ever gotten to the point where you couldn't go on?
No, luckily I've never gotten to that point because I love music so much.
Okay.
So no matter what my nerves are, I think my love for what I do is so much greater.
Right. Okay.
So that supersedes
then
that.
Then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
But it's definitely it definitely stifles my performance, and it would probably be a lot more comfortable for everybody if I just loosened up a little bit.
I mean, how frequently do you perform?
Not often.
Okay.
Anymore. Not
so
often. So that could be it too. I mean, I'm sure if I went on a world tour right now,
right,
if I hit multiple stages a week, every single day, I'd get more comfortable and better. And it's just a work, it's a muscle. It's a working muscle.
I'm thankful for all those years that I did 3 or 4 weddings a week in my 20s, because it was okay, guys, we're up. Bam. Having to perform on demand like that for 4 hours.
For sure.
I mean, I've never been afraid to get on stage and perform. Like I've never been. No, I'm nervous if I feel like I don't know the song, or if if there's other people on stage that don't know what's up. But as far as performing in front of people, I've never had an issue with that.
That's great.
And all those years of playing in rooms where people aren't really paying attention, or
I do the best in those.
yeah.
I'm totally great in those. I'm like, oh, you want to ignore me? Great. Okay, cool.
Right.
I got this. I'm totally ready.
You need a nice tour where it's like 5 consecutive nights with a 8-hour drive every day, where you don't even have time to think about how nervous you are. Just get out there, and it's 8:00 time to go.
Right.
And
just hit it
with frequency, and doing the same show every night. I'm not dispensing unsolicited advice just because I like the sound of my own voice. I'm like literally thinking, like, you of all people, you should be,
And I would love. Hopefully, a tour is in my near future. Yeah. So we'll see.
At the bottom of my questions list, it's music. Next step? Question mark. So let's cover some other every.
If I only knew. I am so stuck in music right now.
Really?
Yeah, and I hope I can listen back to this at another time and be like, oh, that was such a dumb thing to talk about. Like, you're so far beyond that at this point. How could you ever be stuck?
The recently unearthed interview.
Right. This was like many moons ago.
When she's plotting her next move.
Exactly.
Of course, we all know what happened next.
Right. Okay. That's exactly what I'm like waiting to do.
I'm kind of, looking for my own exit sign as well, like on the highway too. So what's your hang up?
So I know what my hang up is, but I don't even know what road I need to take to get to the exit.
Okay.
But I am aware of the hang up. As for a living, I'm an actor.
Right.
Or it's become that I'm known for being an actor instead of a musician, which is wild because for so long I was a singer and a musician, and I wanted desperately for people to recognize me as an actor and, watch what you wish for kind of thing. Now nobody even knows that I sing. So I'm an actor, and my job is to take on other people for a living. It's to take on different characters, be able to mold myself, shift. For music, when we were playing the wedding circuit together, that was also my job for that too.
Right.
Because I had to sing country and pop and rock and hip hop.
Right.
And, everything in between.
Right.
So when it comes to my own music, I have no idea what I sound like. What
your identity as an artist is.
Right. Because I can write country songs. I can write pop songs. I end up writing mostly folk songs, but they're singer-songwriter that doesn't really sound like much. It's just kind of middle of the road, non-identifiable kind of tunes.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck in this weird place, and I'm not able to look from myself outside and look in and figure out what needs to be done because I'm so close to it. So I actually have to, I have to find somebody that's willing to work with me and find my voice.
Right. Okay. Do you feel like, because so many people might know you as Daughter Maitland or as your character on The Family or whatever, do you feel like you have to live up to those expectations, or there's going to, if you come out with a full-on country album, let's say, and people are going to go, what?
I'd be totally fine with coming out.
Okay.
I mean,
so you're not concerned with
I'm not concerned with any titles or genre,
or any expectation on the public's part. You're not. That doesn't concern you.
That does not at all.
You're just looking for something that resonates with you as a performer.
Yeah. And I guess I've always thought that I sounded like a very neo soul singer songwriter because I could do that stuff.
Right.
But then there's another half of me that has always wanted to run away with another male singer or female singer, call ourselves a group name, and become folk artists and do a bluegrass kind of album. And and then like call it a day.
If that's what you wanted to, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, carving out an identity artistically, you know, it's like, maybe that's not what you're not necessarily called to be, you know, ladies and gentlemen, an evening with Margot Bingham. Maybe you want to start a band.
Right.
Or something.
Right.
You know, you figure out what your strengths are, figure out what your weaknesses are, and what it is that you're trying to achieve. A lot of the guys that I see who are succeeding are looking at it from a very logical sort of, like almost like a mathematical formula. Like yeah, there's emotions and there's creativity and there's all that. But, you know, in terms of like, what's my next step? Some strategy in terms of like, what am I really good at? What do I need? What are my deficiencies and all that? There's some of that too.
Right. Maybe that's a good idea, just to like look at it just like plainly.
I mean,
I don't know what the answer. Like,
no. Well,
I truly, and that's kind of like why I've been so stuck, because I do like a lot of fundraiser shows, and
where you appear as Margot Bingham.
Yeah, and
you do like a half a dozen songs, like a short set.
Yeah, I do short set. I could pick like whatever songs I want. I usually pick like three originals or 4 originals, 2 covers.
Yeah,
and it's super fun and easy for me, and it's like that works too. But that's not going to further my career. That's literally just like standing still.
You kind of just like that person, right?
Yeah. I'm like the go-to fundraiser girl, you know. Well, because like I like to stand for things, listen,
and that's and I think that it's great in terms of your profile, which is never a bad thing.
For sure.
Get anytime you can get on stage and practice your craft. That's a good thing. And you know, if you're successfully determining what you don't want to do, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Sure.
But I mean, as far as the style thing, I remember a David Bowie interview from the 90s. Goes, I have no style. I do whatever's necessary to get the job done.
Right.
It's like, wow, okay.
Oh, he just gave me chills again.
He just
fucking love David Bowie.
I love doing his voice. A friend of mine was a receptionist at a recording studio that he was at for a while. And he came out at the end of the night. He was leaving. And he goes, well, good night, my love. See you tomorrow. And she like her legs turned to jelly.
Right. Like totally like, okay, Mr. Bowie.
Yeah, right.
Oh, rest in peace.
I know.
But it's true though. Like he really didn't, he is timeless, and he was genreless. And I mean, I guess Madonna was the same in that way.
Oh yeah.
She, I mean, really could have been anybody.
Well, think about it. Somebody asked you,
but she was just like, I'm just gonna sing.
Try explaining Madonna to somebody who's never heard of her.
Right.
What kind of music is that? You know?
Yeah, it's like she would be pop now, but like before she was doing like
dance music.
Yeah, like EDM.
Right.
A little bit of country, like
anything.
She did anything to make it all
right. It's Madonna.
Work.
It's just her.
Right.
You know?
So I would love to be in that genre. I mean, obviously those are friggin' icons. So yeah, anybody would love to be in that genre. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. I do know that when I went on tour with Jason Mraz, I loved that tour more than anything in the world.
Okay.
I literally left that tour and I was like, yeah, I could do this for the rest of my life this way.
The background singer person.
Well, I sang the Colby Calais song with him. And then
I'm laughing because that was a request on a wedding we were on together.
I know.
And I was listening I was writing out the chart and I hear the female voice on the recording. I'm thinking, Margot's going to sound great on that.
Right.
Just knowing her voice. And I'm like, she's going to really sing the hell out of this. And then I look at the thing and it's you.
Right.
It's like, oh, for God's sake. So anyway.
It was so, I mean, but it was like truly like he did yoga on site and he had like sushi and like masseuses and like the vibe was so cool and everybody was so happy to be there and like it wasn't stressful and it was just like we walked out and we had unbelievable fans, and it was like never.
People love that guy.
It was never stressful with him. It just like never felt like a job.
Well, you can hear that in his music.
Yeah,
There's
and that's
this one song that he does at 100,000 miles away from the sun or whatever. Here it comes, it's a beautiful life. I mean, it's a little bit newer.
Oh,
maybe,
yeah, I don't know his like
when
newer stuff.
And the video is like all of these people kind of like driving down the highway and up a mountain and converging on what you find out to be is his show.
Right.
In like some gorgeous like outdoor side of a
beach
mountain
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like they've got like fires burning and lights and lamp lights everywhere.
Right.
And it's like this very, very like, whoa.
Right.
And I was like, that I'll bet you that guy is really easy to be around.
It's so easy. And it was like, I remember making that vow. I was like, no matter what tour I go on, I want it to feel like this all the time. Because it just felt so perfect.
St. Louis woman with her diamond ring pulls that man around by her apron string. So on for the powder and for store-bought hay. That man I love wouldn't go nowhere, nowhere.
I want to talk about Daughter Maitland for a second.
Sure.
And I'll be perfectly honest with you. I didn't watch Boardwalk Empire. But we did watch Mad Men. And we did have our show that we watched every week.
Right.
That we got really invested in the storyline.
Yes.
And really invested in the development of these characters, like the linear sort of like week after week. So I understand the thing of Boardwalk Empire. And I remember when it was on, when people were like, oh, did you see it this week? Oh, this happened, that happened. Okay.
Yeah, people were obsessed. I mean, that's you're right. That's any TV show, though.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Like Stranger Things is my newest addiction.
Okay.
But it came out last year, but
Yeah.
we cannot wait until October. Like
Right.
October cannot get here quick enough
Okay.
so that we can just watch Stranger Things. Like that is the only thing
Nice.
that is like on the docket to look for. Like I'm following these kids on Instagram and I'm so invested in them.
You want to see what happens
and I want to
next.
see what happened. Like I'm so like, I can't get enough of them.
Okay.
So I understand.
You understand? Okay.
I get it.
So inhabiting that character who's got a pretty, gnarly backstory.
For sure.
And
Very Stockholm syndrome.
Oh, right. Exactly. So as an actress for you, how invested do you get? Like, does your level of immersion in this character like increase over time? How do you manage a character like that that's so specific and every week it's like now this is happening and you're following the story kind of as opposed to like a sitcom where everything is kind of wrapped up at the end of the half hour and you kind of start all over again.
Well, it's interesting.
What is that process like for an actress?
It's interesting because maybe I might not be able to answer this for actors, but for me,
just for yourself.
For myself, it was interesting because I did music in the show too.
Right.
So I would basically get the songs before the episodes. So
Okay.
I would, like my whole life was Boardwalk because I would be in the recording studio to record the songs. I would get the songs via email first. I would practice at home like a day before the studio. I would go into the studio, record the songs. Then I would go to set, get a fitting and costume fitted, and then we would go right into shooting, and then it would be the next week again. So so that was my everyday, but the songs would come first, and I feel like the songs kind of helped propel me to get to the place where the scene was.
Right. Okay.
So and for me, because I'm also coming from music, the music always helps me, even if I'm not singing as the role. If I can find the character's soundtrack, then I can find her somehow. I can always find her.
Okay.
So like I always start out, this is weird, but I always start out with music and nails. Music and nails. Like what the music for her sounds like and what her nails look like.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know you're like looking at my nails.
Well,
now.
but
it makes a difference. It's like it's the costumes that I can control. And it's something that I just like have to, because like when my nails are longer, I notice that I speak differently.
Sure.
It actually kind of changes the way that my voice is.
Sure.
But when my nails are shorter, I act differently because I could do more. I could pick up more. I can, I'm like a little bit more brutish. I can, like it changes my whole persona. So it's like, it's almost like putting on a suit for the day. Okay. So to me, without like putting on the costumes, the nails were always a big thing.
Interesting.
So for Daughter, I always got my nails done in like a 1920s way. And I would go to this one salon that was like the only one I could find at the time, because now it's become like a hip way of wearing nails because all of that has come back. But in Harlem, they did it uptown, and I would have to literally go uptown like every 2 weeks.
Okay.
It came out of my own paycheck. It was something of my own investment.
Interesting.
And but I needed it for her.
Okay.
And that was the way that I tapped into her, was through her hands. And I felt her all the time.
Okay. And through the songs.
And through the songs.
Because the songs were always the few clips. I did like a crash course in Daughter Maitland preparing for this.
Yeah.
And I always got the sense that like, and in all those movies that take place during that era where the singers were under contract to some club owner / gangster / husband / person, they would get out to sing, and there was always that like that moment where they would sing a line, can't help loving that man of mine, and they would look at the man, the songs were always kind of subtly putting out,
of course,
whatever message was happening.
Right. It was always some other innuendo.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that you have to bring that out as well. So you're not singing as Margot. You're singing kind of in character also.
For sure.
What kind of preparation did you have to do in terms of learning that music?
Well, I grew up listening to jazz.
Okay.
But I grew up listening to like 1940s, 1950s jazz, which as a musician, is very different from 1920s, and then different to the late 20s, and then different to the 30s.
Right.
But like stylistically, as a singer, as a vocalist, it's a different kind of cadence and vibrato that's in the voice. And, like there's like a lot of, and then in the 40s, it's just like a lot of longer, like,
right.
Yeah. Like, so there's like a difference in the type, and definitely the studio performance and the mics and everything.
Right.
So I really wanted to focus on making sure that my vibrato was right, and I could really give a good shake on the mic without having to shake my head, but like really figuring out how to shake my voice and trying to make it sound like it was just like right out of a recording from the 1920s, which I love to do because I love accents and dialects. But instead of that, I just kind of took it on as my music. She had a dialect as well. She was from New Orleans, so she was a little, she had that kind of hard Louisiana draw. But
did you listen to singers from that era?
Yeah, I did.
Who were some of the singers you listened to?
I listened a lot to Bessie Smith.
Okay.
I loved her. I still
right to the top.
Love Bessie Smith. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, there was a lot of other people that I listened to, but Bessie was definitely one of my favorites. Like Josephine's, it was more character. It was interesting to hear people like that. There was a Ruthie. Oh God, I'm like totally blanking on her last name. I can't remember. But there was something about the show of Bessie that like the showmanship in her voice. That I could hear what era she was in. And then I can also hear the performance. And then it was like also like I can kind of hear where she was in her life or like in her tour.
Yeah.
She like kind of encapsulated the performer that I was trying to cover up with daughter a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like flooded myself with her.
Wow.
But and it was cool because like Daughter wasn't made after anybody. You know,
Right.
like she wasn't written after a
based on any
specific
sort of-
character. No. This was like it was like a slew of characters in Harlem singing at the Cotton Club, you know, which there were hundreds of women that did.
Right.
So
that no one's ever heard of.
Nobody's ever heard of. They've never
Right.
had a hit, you know, like they came in and out.
They've sang
house
in the clubs
band in and out. And that was it.
Right.
So she was one of those lost souls that kind of came and went. So I just wanted to really find her, and it helped that I didn't have to kind of pigeonhole her into a certain sound or look or make or stance.
Okay.
She just was kind of like all of the above in the 20s.
Did you feel any sort of personal connection to her? Like when the show ended and you had to like drop her from your daily, weekly life. I mean, was there, how did that feel for you? I mean, I'm not an actor, so I don't know how it works.
No, it was definitely weird. Like
develop a relationship with these characters. I mean, because you're, you know.
Well, I mean, the difference between music and acting is, or one of the many, is that as a musician, you can go into the studio, you learn the song, you record the song, you're kind of vibing it. You get like a vibe. You don't really you immerse yourself, but you don't get lost in it because you know after the recording's done, you're going to walk out and you're going to learn another song.
Right.
As an actor, we literally have to get lost in these people.
Right.
And I really did get lost in her, but I tried to leave her at the studio as much as possible because she was really dark and I really couldn't have her with me all the time because that would have been too heavy. But
right, okay, that was what I was going to
say. I definitely I try to do that for everybody. I recently played a heroin addict, and it was like a quick 9-day shoot, and I really had to leave her behind, and that took 3 months to shake off for 9 days.
No shit, really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I didn't jump into shooting up and everything, but like
the emotional
roller coaster of it, getting back to kind of I played a part that I was in a really infectious addictive relationship with another man who was also a musician. He and I were musicians in it, and we were addicts as well. But I basically had to get addicted to him in 9 days because I wanted that to read on screen. So we had like every day together, and I'm in a full relationship at home, you know, like in a real life relationship. But you know, my guy is very good at letting me just kind of get immersed the way that I need to. He knows that I'll always come back, and he's not the jealous type, and he just lets me do what I need to get done. So I asked if we couldn't talk for the week, and we didn't speak for the week.
Wow.
And I texted him every once in a while, but I really didn't speak to him because I didn't want to hear his voice. I just wanted to hear my partner's voice in the movie.
Okay.
And we spent like all morning, all afternoon, all night together, and then did it again for another 9 days. And we truly got addicted in this like gross relationship.
Wow.
Really toxic relationship that when I left, I had moments that I was like, I should call him, and then I was like, oh, no, you shouldn't. Like, that's not real. Like, that's Brianna talking. Like, you really should not call him.
Wow.
or there were moments that, you know, that I would go to kiss my guy, and I was like, this just feels wrong. I feel like I'm somewhere else.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So like, there's times that like, it will take you a while to kind of move back into your brain because you had to take on somebody else's brain.
Right.
And I don't agree with the method acting kind of thing that like you have to, there's like Christian Bale and other actors that believe in like living out their lives in that world, or they have to like close off the doors and not talk to anybody. Like, I don't believe in any of that shit. That's what acting is for. You know, like you're an actor, you act.
Yeah. I heard an interview with Alec Baldwin recently where he talked about that, about the, God, what the hell's the name of the actor who used to do oh God, what's his name? He was in Godfather 2. He played Hyman Roth in Godfather 2. I
can't remember his name, but Daniel Day-Lewis was one of them too.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like very much that type of thing.
Well, Alec Baldwin's explanation about that was, about like the method. He says a lot of people don't stumble across the fine print in that.
Yeah.
That all the methods, so to speak, should only be employed only if inspiration fails you.
Right.
Like if you can just open your mouth and say the words and do what you got to do, there's no need to go into a corner and twist yourself into some sort of emotional pretzel.
That's insane.
If you can just
agree,
if you can just say the lines and you're there,
like there's so much work that you have to do anyways to get to the place that you need to be emotionally there. But I agree with that. Like if you, after the work and after the inspiration and the set and the costumes and the hair and the makeup don't inspire you, which they definitely should, then number one, you should kind of
I was going to say
question like being like an actor, because that's like literally what that's what the job is. Like, like you have to act, like it's acting.
Although I remember one of the Happy Together tours I did where Mitch Ryder was on Devil with a Blue Dress, pounding like Detroit rock and roll. We're playing him off, Devil with a Blue Dress, Blue Dress, Blue Dress. And then he was followed by Gary Puckett.
Okay.
Lady Willpower. And it was just like, there were nights where, like, especially if we were doing,
That's so perfect.
There were nights where we would do like a theater in the round, like Westbury Music Fair, or one of those like melody tent kind of gigs where the people are like right there in front of you. And I would always like Devil with a Blue Dress, I would always go full on, like, grinding it out rock and roll. And I would, we'd play Mitch off and then black out on stage. And I'd be like, and now Gary Puckett, da 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 da.
Right.
And I had to like switch into like some other
shell shock,
some other kind of mode. Like, I couldn't, following like one kind of energy with another.
But there's something about music that lets you switch easier.
That's right.
Like, it's definitely like music, because I feel like music drives everybody's emotion. Like it always does. So like to be like, I could literally switch from like a Katy Perry to a Journey song. Like that is, it's not that hard for me because like the music will take me there. Right. So for acting, it's just to switch from like a role back to your life. Sometimes there's no aid in that. You just kind of have to just give it time, and then eventually you'll just get back to normal. And then you go off to do something else.
What was like was there ever a time where you came home from doing Daughter Maitland all day and then like where you really had to concentrate on becoming Margot again?
Not for Daughter Maitland, thankfully. Okay. I really worked a lot with my acting coach to really leave it in the dressing room. Okay. And at the studio. Yeah. Okay. There would be times that I would come home and like listen to a song and just kind of like bring myself back there, or like the way that I talked to people kind of started to change. Like I would say like things like, "Oh boy," or "Gee," or "Golly whiz," or
bringing like, back 20s.
Yeah,
slang.
Like literally, like I would say
That's
things.
The cat's pajamas, mister.
Right. Watch out for my gams. But so I would say like really strange things to my family or friends, and I would catch myself sometimes, and I'm like, where did that come from?
That's funny.
And that where she would just kind of seep in a little bit that I really couldn't help it. Okay. But as far as like leaving her behind, there's really been only a couple roles that have really dragged into my home.
What was like the most intense example of that?
Probably Mimi, when I was Mimi in Rent. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
I did it here in New York. Yeah. And
in 2011. 2011. And this was by this time Rent was Rent. It was like the thing that everybody knew it. It had
been Rent for probably 8 years at that point. Right. Where like it was like the Rent heads and Rent fans were crazy. Probably a decade at that point. It had already been like in full swing. Sure. And I remember when I went on for it was so intense because I actually was Alexi Darling in the show, and I was a Mimi and Joanne cover understudy. and our Mimi got injured, so I was on all the time. But I actually wasn't her.
Now, for those of us who are unfamiliar with Rent,
Yes.
which includes myself,
Yes.
Mimi is who?
So Mimi was the drug addict that was addicted, and she was in this really addicted relationship with this musician. Sounds very similar to the last movie.
Like, wait a minute. Yeah, okay.
But she always struggled with addiction, and she really she didn't come from much money. She was always really strung out, and she was a stripper. She was like a prostitute and trying to make it work.
Okay.
But she ends up falling for this guy, and he tries to bring her back, and then or like bring the best out of her. But it was in New York and the Lower East Side, and the 80s during AIDS,
right?
And her kind of risque lifestyle was really dangerous at the time. Really dangerous.
Sure.
I mean, not that none of that is ever not dangerous, but sharing needles and dancing and
specific
sex with strangers is that was in the 80s. You didn't know who was going to still be alive or around.
Yep.
So she had a lot of stuff. And me personally going into that show, when I didn't get the part, then that was kind of my dream part growing up. I loved Rent growing up. I was like, I loved that musical.
That was going to be my next question, like walking into...
Well, because it was like the first rock musical that I could relate to with my type of voice to sing.
Yeah.
So like when I was 13, I was singing Mimi around the house.
Got it. Okay.
Like I loved...
Okay.
I love Light My Candle, even though I didn't know that it was about like, dropping my stash. And
that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what was it like walking into this thing that like...
It was weird.
It would be like for me getting a role in a chorus line or something like that.
Yeah, it was like weird. Like think about like your childhood dream.
Sure.
And what album you used to listen to all the time. And then think about if they called you today and they were like, hey, we're doing a remake of the band.
Yeah.
Love to have you on bass.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what? Like I know all those parts. So yes, I can play everything.
My first Happy Together tour, Mickey Dolenz was on.
Yeah.
And it was like, I have stepped through the fucking looking glass.
Like,
I'm playing, I'm a believer.
It is the Royal Doors.
With that guy's voice coming out of my wedge.
Right.
And the rehearsal that we had, like the day before the tour started, I caught myself like...
surreal.
Like gawking at him.
Yeah.
I got like 3 seconds to pull it together.
Right.
Before he says, get rid of the bass player because he keeps staring at me like I'm food.
For sure.
Right. So for you to walk into Rent,
yes, that was bizarre.
That was...
Yeah.
How did you overcome that?
Well, I don't know if I ever really did.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I mean...
So you just kind of worked through it?
I worked through it.
You separated?
Well, so first it was meeting all of Jonathan Larson's family, who was the writer and creator of the show. And he died the night before the big debut of the show.
Yeah. I remember when I was living in New York when that was happening, when that was all happening.
Yeah, and it was huge. And I remember doing book reports on Jonathan Larson and like
oh wow, so this was like a big deal for you.
Oh, this was like the biggest deal for me.
Holy shit.
And that's what made me really move to New York, because I was on tour with Jason first. And then I moved to New York, and then I got Rent, and then my career started.
Was it everything you would hoped it would be?
No.
What wasn't it that you thought it might be or wanted it to be? Like what was the ratio of expectations to reality for you?
I guess it was me wanting to be Mimi so badly and not being her, and not getting cast as her, and then being her on stage and realizing that no matter how many times I went on, I would still never be good enough for the director to be Mimi.
Really?
Yeah. That was
according to who?
According to him.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And that was a harsh realization for me, that no matter how much heart I put into her, he never saw me as her.
What was lacking in his eyes?
I have no idea.
He just would...
To this day, I just was not his Mimi.
He was just giving you a hard time all the time?
No, or? I just don't think... I mean, Michael is very straightforward, and he does not shy away from saying what he feels. And I was just never going to be his Mimi, no matter how good I was on stage or how great I thought I sang that night or danced or whatever. I was never going to be that for him.
You think that's because this is Michael
Greif.
Michael Greif,
yeah.
was
he's now, I mean, like he's Dear Evan Hansen and
okay.
If Then and
was he the director of Rent like from the beginning?
He was.
So was he still kind of locked into whoever originated that role, or what? I mean, what was he?
I mean, Daphne Rubin Vega did it, and she, she's older now. So there's no way that she would be able to do that again. And she was a big part of putting the production back together. And Adam Pascal originated the male part, and he was a big part of putting it back together. And that was surreal for me also to see like the original Mimi and Roger like in front of me and become friends with them. Like that was surreal. And I was like, this is bizarre. Like, I don't know. No, I don't think it was anything deeper than just not being her for him. And for me, I just think that I wanted it so badly and kind of needed it to be valid or to feel validated that it was really hard to break out of that darkness of that. So that show was really, there was a lot of anger that went into the show, and there was a lot of disappointment and a lot of, I became kind of resentful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Of the whole thing. I mean, I also, like, this is also, like, my grandmother passed right before I got the gig.
Okay.
For my last audition for the show, I was supposed to go to Pittsburgh that day, and then I called my mom afterwards, and she told me that she passed away when I was in there. She passed away right before I went in, but my parents didn't tell me because they didn't want to screw up my last audition.
Wow.
So my grandmother being gone, I got injured on the show, and I was out for the first 2 months, and they basically were bringing in replacements in front of me and saying, like, if you don't get better by opening night, you're kind of out.
Oh my
so
God.
it was like a lot of those kind of things.
Okay.
So it wasn't just Michael. It wasn't just not being Mimi. It was like literally everything at that moment was probably wrong.
Okay.
And I was in that show for 1.5 years. And I was also like in a really bad relationship. And
okay. So it wasn't just the Rent experience.
Yeah. It was like all inclusive.
That's cool that you understand that though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I know that it was all the pieces. Fox is doing the next live musical, and they're doing Rent. And I'm praying that I get a shot at Mimi. And I'm sure if and when that happens, my experience will be very different. I'm in a very different place in my life, you know. Or who knows? Maybe it will go down the shithole again. But you never know. But I think that everything happens for a reason, and I think your atmosphere and environment definitely play into how you take on different things.
Sure. Yeah.
And that experience was not the best. Yeah.
Are you still able to enjoy that music though,
for sure,
as you did back then? Then you won.
Yeah. I'm still, and honestly, that show was such a sorority with the women and frat with the boys in it that we all still keep in touch. We all, the Rent family is huge, and it's been huge over decades. And I've met other people that have played in past.
It's an institution. I mean, it's like 20-something years.
It's like a university. So like we've had reunions, and to be a part of that is very cool. And I still keep in touch with my castmates. So it's I really created friendships there that it was kind of like I went to college.
If I could be queen, even for a day, I'd take you as my king. I'd have it no other way, and our love would rule in this kingdom we have made. Till then I'd be a fool, wishing for the day that I can change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe,
I want to talk about two things of yours that you've created recently, one of which I was a part of, the Feel Good Studios. Is that still happening?
It's not dead.
Okay.
Feel Good Studios.
Tell me how that started and why that started and all that.
So that started
Not
around
tell
the
me,
time.
tell my listeners.
Yeah, so listeners, Feel Good Studios was a music series that I created on YouTube. And John was nice enough to be a part of one of the songs, which was really amazing.
It was so much fun.
Still one of my favorite songs that we performed out of that whole series.
It was great.
We uploaded five tunes, and I showcased the recording studios around New York City to kind of bring focus again to this dying generation of studios because we can really record anywhere now. Case in point, this.
Sure, yeah.
But there's still amazing studios that are really underground and a lot of people don't know about, and I wanted to really showcase and highlight them while doing an inspirational song along with it. Yeah. It started because I was looking to feel inspired. It was around going into the election.
Yeah.
And I just needed positivity because the world was getting real dark for me. Yeah. But I also was at the same place musically that I didn't feel I could write because I didn't know my genre. And I just needed guidance. And I was like, why don't I just go back and just redo some of these like iconic, amazing songs that just have those words for me and I'll just sing them.
Yeah.
How about that? And I can bring my friends together and we can all play together and play those iconic songs and just pay homage to it while we're paying homage to these studios.
Right.
How amazing would that be?
Nice.
So I started doing that. And a lot of studios gave me a lot of love. There were some studios that did not give me love, but they just, their minimum was booking like a 2-hour session.
Okay.
And you know, John, by playing the song, we basically go in, we set up the cameras, we play the song twice, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the point was to play it really live, not practice it, not rehearse it that much, more than once, I mean. And just like feel it out, like just make it feel good. Yep. And that was Feel Good Studios.
Well, not for nothing. That's, first of all, I thrive under pressure.
Me too.
As a player,
I love that.
I love it's like
most people I know.
We got 2 takes. I'm like, yep, I'm good.
Know that
the thing
too.
of like, let's try it again. Only this time,
right?
I want you to you die 1,000 deaths.
Totally.
But a lot of the classic albums and singles that we still listen to 40, 50 years later were done under those conditions. And I think one of the things that makes pop music, well, any kind of music, but pop music specifically, last is the human emotion of like, let's all come together and put our energy into this thing.
Totally.
There is something to be said. I mean, look, there's something to be said for spending, 6 weeks trying out different snare drums. Not for me.
Not for me.
But there, my default is the Beatles. It's like, all right, we're all set up. What have you got for us, John and Paul? All right, well, the song goes like this. And before lunch, we've cranked out 3 songs.
Right.
And those are the records that grown men are still trying to figure out how to play today.
Right.
So when you said like, yeah, we've got like, I mean, I remember showing up for the session and the mandate was like, we got to do this and get out.
Yeah.
And
we had like 45 minutes to be out of that studio.
Love it. I love that.
Which was amazing.
Great.
I was like, great.
Let's do it.
Where can we set up a camera? Oh, the guitarist didn't show up. Fantastic. Does anybody play guitar?
That was great.
Literally that's what happened that day. Like the engineer, he was like, I've never heard this song. And I was like, are you 12?
That's
and
right.
He actually was. No, he was like, and he was literally 20 and he's like, I never heard this song. I was like, you should definitely check out Eric Clapton. He's kind of a small town, musician.
He's a guitar player.
He just started.
I know.
But it was so cool and I loved the pulse of that whole vibe, but it honestly stopped because it started getting too expensive. Studios did not care about my name as an actor and they didn't care about us showcasasing their studios. They were like,
nice.
We get
Day
plenty
rate.
of publications.
Right.
We need a day rate. And I was like, guys, like $600 for,
for 2 hours or whatever.
Not even for 30 minutes.
I know.
That's nauseating.
And
to
it's
me.
unfortunate that's kind of why it's dying. I hate to, it's terrible. I mean, I'm a fan of studios. I love showing up going up the elevator and I love all that.
Yeah.
But in a city like this where you can literally like put a Craigslist ad you could like rent out your terrace as an apartment and you'll have someone here in 15 minutes to take a look at it.
Right.
It's just unsustainable. Right. And it's a shame. But you think you'll keep this going some kind of way?
I would like to when I love that my acting life has been successful because basically that money that I gain in acting gigs, it just goes to music.
You just
it
subsidizes
it just funds. Like it doesn't go into savings. Like I like lose it all. It's all gone.
Right.
But it just goes right to music, and then I just invest in other music stuff.
System.
Yeah, and I mean, like unfortunately, my music hasn't taken off to then like help me out with savings.
Well,
but eventually it will.
Yeah.
And when I get my next paycheck, it will go toward another feel-good studio song.
Beautiful.
And this can honestly be something that can continue on. My hopes is that it becomes global, that we can go to different countries, different cities, showcase studios everywhere.
And local musicians,
showcase them, local engineers, showcase them. There's so many stories out there, and this could easily be one of those that it could work.
Yeah.
It could really, really work.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about using it as like a pitch to a network, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about the Come Up podcast.
Thank
you for my invitation to the launch party.
Oh my God, of course.
I never get invited to stuff like that.
Oh, of course,
so it was
John.
Like, hey, I get to put on a nice shirt.
Hell yeah.
And have some cocktails.
Yeah, it was a great party.
A little bit. It was wonderful.
Packed.
Yeah.
I was really surprised.
So tell us all about the podcast and the idea and who Cassie is.
So Cassie, or Cassandra Freeman, Cassie for short.
Okay.
She's a fellow actress and friend of mine that I met through another actor friend of mine.
Okay. Had you guys worked together?
We have not, but she was in Inside Man that Spike Lee did.
Okay.
She's been in Atlanta, the TV show.
Okay.
She's been in Luke Cage. She played Kevin Durant's mother in the Kevin Durant biopic.
Okay.
She's been around for a minute, and she's a fabulous actress. And she was super goofy when I met her through a mutual friend of ours. And I just totally fell for her as a human. And I was like, oh, I want to keep you around as my friend.
Okay.
You have to be my friend.
Yeah.
And luckily she took me in. But this podcast kind of came about because we would call each other when we wouldn't book a job. And we would basically bitch to each other. And we were like, I don't understand. It didn't sound like that, but it was more crying.
You have those those specific friends that you can vent to comfortably.
And we both took full advantage. And I was like, Cassie, we can't keep doing this and expecting something to change. There's no way that we just keep bitching and that's our answer to booking jobs.
Right.
Like, that's not how this works. And she's like, I know. I was like, why don't we start a podcast?
Right.
She's like, I was going to ask you if you wanted to be a podcast. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what do you think about this concept? She's like, yes. I thought about that. And I was like, what do you think about the Come Up? And she's like, I love that name. I haven't been able to find a name. I love that name. And I was like, oh, this was like so meant to be.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of started going in our back pockets and looking into different actors and celebrities that we know.
Okay.
And we needed inspiration personally. So we were like, why don't we just ask them how they succeed and what their roads to success was?
Okay.
And maybe it will inspire us. Maybe it will inspire other people even better. So we started doing that, and the interviews are really gratifying. It's crazy how many people, number one, said yes to us.
Uh-huh.
It was really overwhelming because I don't ask for many things of my friends.
Sure.
That makes me uncomfortable a bit. Yeah, we all kind of do that, or most of us do.
I go through that. Hi, you ever want to be in my podcast?
It's like, why do we feel so beneath anybody to ask?
I know.
The worst they can say is no, and then you say no, and then you just like keep moving on, or you're not friends with them anymore. Like whatever happens on the other side, at least like you stepped forward and asked.
Right.
But I kind of had to get over that ask. And I still, every email that I send out, because we do it the right way. We email managers or publicists. We go through the whole rigmarole, because we respect people. And it's always the same responses that we get back. It's always directly from the person. And it's like, girls, duh. Like, and why did you contact my manager?
Interesting.
Just call me.
Interesting.
And it's like, well, we respect
trying to
you.
do the right
We're trying to do the right thing.
It's always the people that you want to hear from.
Sure.
That do the right thing. Like, I don't know if, like, I notice with shows, the people that you want hanging out after the show, the people that you would give free tickets and backstage passes to, are like, no, I'll buy tickets. And no, it's your dressing room is your space.
Right.
I don't want to have it. It's always the people that you don't want around.
For sure.
Hitting you up on show day.
Yeah.
Hey, can you get me on the list?
Right.
Can you get me backstage? Can you get this person to sign it?
Always.
So that's, I always err on the side of being a little too formal.
Yeah.
And maintaining that. And,
I agree.
And having the person, go like, what do you just do at any time?
Right. And I think that was a lot of it. It was definitely like a lot of self-imposing fear that was like definitely not needed to be there.
Well, at some point though, you will be hitting up some huge
For
name.
sure.
And it's good that you practice that sort of,
Yes. But and this has also helped build the confidence of just like, this crosses over into walking into a room with bigger names and demanding the right to know that I'm worth it to be seen. And, so this has kind of crossed over into a lot of different facets and asking more things of other people and knowing that I am worthy of expecting an answer.
And that's also part of the formula to success, which is what the show is about. So it's like you're living the thing.
We're living it, literally. And then we're recording it, and then we're listening to it, and I'm editing it, and we're inspired by it. So it's like it's a constant thing. And it's also tried our producer hat as well, because we're booking all of the people. This is all just us.
Yeah.
And it's really overwhelming, and it's been extremely stressful and daunting, and plenty of times that I wanted to throw in the towel and lost what the show was about, because you get caught up in scheduling or editing or rushing or whatever. But luckily we're starting to figure out the machinery of it and the mechanics, and it will take time, but we're going to go through January 1st, and then we're going to reevaluate and see where we are.
Okay.
Yeah. We put just like a little cap on it, and it comes out every Wednesday, and you can find us on Twitter or at the Come Up MC or on iTunes, the Come Up with Margot and Cassie, or Instagram, the Come Up MC. But it's every Wednesday for Women Crush Wednesday, so we give a shout out to women.
Oh, nice.
And we have actually our schedule until December 1st.
Sweet. In my notes here, I've got Feel Good Studios Come Up podcast circled with the new media, the YouTube thing, the podcast thing. You feel comfortable sort of navigating this, like what to me is sort of like a new sort of landscape culturally, just creating your own stuff and putting it out there on your own, as opposed to just, 20 years ago, you're going on auditions and trying to get jobs. And now it's like, let's start a thing and it's up.
Yes.
Are you comfortable in that role as a content creator?
I don't know if I'm comfortable in it, but I think that I've become aware that if you're not open to that kind of lifestyle, you will be waiting forever.
Okay.
Especially as an actor, and I guess in music too, but especially as an actor, we're always waiting for a yes or for a no. We're always waiting for the contract, or we can't move forward without somebody else telling us that we can. We can't just jump into a movie and just say, "Hey, I want that role." I have to be given that role.
And every gig is sort of like the audition for the next one.
Yeah. So in the meantime, you also can't fall out and like not be creative just because, and flex that creativity just because like somebody hasn't given you a yes yet. You shouldn't have to sit on your couch and like twiddle your thumbs to wait for a yes.
Right.
You should be able to look into yourself and say, what have I always wanted to do? Or just like today, if I wanted to wake up today and just say, I I just want to be inspired. Maybe I should start taking pictures of flowers outside or start painting or, just like flex different muscles that nobody will tell you yes or no for, that you're not like waiting for gratification from it.
Yeah.
That the gratification will just come from yourself. So that's what Feel Good Studios came from. That's where the come up came from. It's really not, for me personally, I can't speak for Cassie or for other people that did Feel Good, but for me personally, it was not for the gratification. I got the gratification in coming together with friends.
Yeah.
And I got gratification in hearing other people's stories and people feeling okay to let me in. Like that was like a win for the day if I got that done.
You think that's your, for lack of a better term, your mission statement in terms of what you do?
I'd say so. Yeah, I'm pretty inspired by people, and I think
bringing
that
people together. I mean,
I love connecting people.
Yeah.
That's what I love to do for a living. And there's nothing greater than connecting different worlds because I've always come from so many.
Okay.
So I was the one that was like kind of the, the through line through all of it. Mm-hmm. So going from one space to the other, I love connecting people in different scenes. And I guess that's kind of that's what makes me happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I just write like keywords to suggest questions in our new media navigating landscape mission statement. So that seems to be the thread with you for me as an observer and occasional participant. That seems to be your vibe.
And as my friend, yes, yes. Yeah. But I think that right now, especially, we just live in a world
where that's possible.
Where it's possible, but if you are not trying to connect with people outside of your realm, then you're really not doing anything for the world.
I refuse to get into any substantial debate online anymore. You disagree with me and you want to pick apart what I just wrote or whatever, we're going to talk on the phone or we're going to talk in person.
Right.
We're not going to sit behind the safety of our
computers. I was going to say, it's also like a safety blanket that people, everybody always has something to say behind a computer screen or a phone screen. But the second that you get in front of the person, they become human. And that blockage kind of gets, buried. And all of a sudden you have to actually stand up for yourself. And a lot of people don't have the guts to do that. Yep. So in turn, those words that they say online, they mean absolutely nothing to me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely nothing to me.
I just started doing some freelance writing. I've written a few pieces where people didn't agree with the point I was making or whatever. And it's amazing how quickly people will just write, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. They go straight to the
negative,
the meanest comment.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like, say it to my face or I'm not going to take it seriously.
Right.
So, all right, you got a big thing coming up in the fall. When does the Spike Lee,
Thanksgiving.
When does she, okay.
Thanksgiving. Nice. Can't forget that date.
Right.
Yeah.
So
everybody's going to be super lethargic.
Loaded on turkey. They're going to turn on Netflix and she's got to have it.
Right. So it's going to be between that and football. You'll have two options.
Okay. I know where I'll be.
I'm super excited. It's definitely not something that I want to watch with my parents.
So I'll make sure not to watch with my daughter then.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. It's very adult.
Okay.
Not on my end, but the whole show is very adult.
Okay.
There's sex all through it.
Was it intimidating to work with that guy?
For sure.
Okay.
If you're not intimidated by Spike Lee,
right.
I don't know who isn't.
Yeah.
He's to say genius is like downplaying what he is.
Really?
Yeah, he's truly
okay.
He's truly something else. It was intimidating to get to work with him. To do a TV series with him was kind of like, what? Like, he's doing TV. This is wild. Even though it's Netflix, so it's like streaming. So I guess it's kind of different.
Episodic.
Yeah. Yes. Episodic cinema.
Episodic content.
But he directed all 10 episodes.
Okay.
So his hand is very heavy in all of this.
Sure.
He did not leave the editing room.
Okay.
We really didn't allow any writers on set. he was in charge of those things as well. So
wow.
he really Spike knows what he wants.
So it's like that.
It's the Spike show.
It's like that.
It's the Spike show.
It's like if you're on like a Woody Allen set or whatever. It's like you're in his ecosystem.
You're in his world,
and you
are in his
yes, sir.
world.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you're in Spike's world.
Nice,
for sure.
And you're but that's a comfortable place for you to be and work in.
It's become a comfortable place for me. In the beginning, I was just nervous if I could even fit in Spike's world. You know, seeing some of his movies,
sure.
I was like, I grew, you know, these movies, I grew up on his movies too.
Right.
Iconic movies. Looking at these characters that seem so far away, and now I'm becoming one of them, was just kind of very surreal, and I questioned if I fit in his world. I was like, is this, I know that they cast me, but like, are you sure? Like, do I fit in here? And I wasn't sure if I did.
Wow.
But now I know that I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you did the work and it's going up.
Because I did the work and he was happy with it, and he treats us all like we're his kids.
Nice.
Know? He's just he really respects us a lot, and he adores us a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we covered everything I wanted to cover, so I want to thank you for your time.
Thanks, John.
And for your continuing inspiration and being inspired, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. And then the next Feel Good Studios will get you back.
Oh, looking forward to it. All right. Thank you.
Radio 418.
Yeah, you can check out Margot's stuff at margotbingham.com. MargotBingham.com. You can follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Margot Bingham. And follow the Come Up Podcast, both on Twitter and Instagram at The Come Up MC. And they're on iTunes as well. And check out Feel Good Studios on YouTube. Dig it. Looking forward to what the future holds for Margot, my friend. The website for the podcast is radio418.com. You can stream episodes from there. You can subscribe there when you create a Podbean account. And we're also on iTunes as well. Perhaps you know that already because you're listening to us, right? Yeah. The show is also streaming on YouTube now, on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/John Montagna Music. Follow me on Twitter at JohnMon, JONMON. I'm on Instagram too, at John Montagna. Facebook.com/Radio418. But anything and everything you want to know about me and what I'm doing is on my website, johnmontagna.com. Thank you so much for listening to Radio 418. Put some music into your day, folks. Grab a bunch of CDs when you go into the car for a drive. Carve some time out in the day to just put some headphones on and listen to an album or two all the way through. It's good for you. I will see you on the next one. Be well.